What if the machine sitting in your driveway burning fuel every single day became completely obsolete within a decade? Not because of a new law, not because of rising fuel prices, but because something better simply arrived. Right now, inside quiet Indian laboratories, engineers are working on a battery breakthrough that could change everything. A battery so powerful, so cheap and fast to charge that petrol engines may soon feel ancient. And the shocking part is that this breakthrough is not coming from Germany, Japan, or California. It is coming from India, a country most people never associated with cutting-edge battery science. Cities famous for crowded traffic and honking horns are quietly becoming hubs of advanced chemistry. Nobody expected the next chapter of transportation history to be written in these unlikely places. For decades, the world assumed battery innovation belonged to wealthy nations with massive research budgets. Petrol cars ruled the roads, and electric vehicles were seen as expensive toys for the rich. But something quietly shifted inside Indian research labs, universities, and ambitious young startups across the country. Engineers began asking a bold question: why should India remain dependent on imported batteries forever? Why not build a battery technology so good it changes the entire global automotive industry? That question sparked a race that few people outside these labs even knew was happening. Stay till the end, because the final part of this story explains why this changes everything. Let us trace the biggest moments behind India's EV battery breakthrough right from the very beginning. It all starts with a painful truth that frustrated engineers for years. Batteries were the biggest problem. Electric vehicles existed for decades, but their batteries were heavy, expensive, and painfully slow to charge. A single battery could cost nearly half the price of the entire vehicle itself. This made electric cars unaffordable for ordinary families struggling with everyday expenses and tight budgets. Global battery production was dominated by just a handful of countries, creating serious supply dependence. India imported almost every single battery cell used in its early electric vehicles from abroad. This dependence left Indian manufacturers vulnerable to price changes and international supply disruptions beyond their control. Engineers realized that without local battery technology, India's electric vehicle dreams would always remain limited. That realization became the spark behind a determined national mission most people had not yet noticed. Meetings that once focused on assembling foreign parts slowly shifted toward designing original technology instead. Engineers who once repaired imported batteries now dreamed of building something entirely their own. The next chapter takes us into India's ambitious semiconductor and battery manufacturing missions launched by the government. Billions of dollars were committed towards building domestic battery production facilities from the ground up. This was not a small pilot project, it was a serious, long-term national commitment. Universities partnered with private companies, combining academic research with real-world manufacturing expertise and experience. Young scientists who once dreamed of working abroad suddenly found cutting-edge opportunities right at home. Skeptics questioned whether India could truly compete with countries that had decades of battery experience already. But the government pushed forward, treating battery independence as a matter of national economic security. This bold commitment quietly laid the foundation for breakthroughs that would soon surprise the entire world. Construction crews worked around the clock, building factories in regions once known only for farming. Local communities that had never seen advanced manufacturing suddenly found themselves at the center of innovation. Meanwhile, another critical piece of the puzzle was falling into place: access to raw materials. Batteries require specific minerals like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, most of which India had to import. Engineers began exploring alternative battery chemistries that relied less on these expensive, hard-to-find materials.
Researchers experimented with sodium-ion batteries using materials far more abundant and affordable than lithium. This was risky, experimental science with no guarantee that these alternatives would ever actually work. Early prototypes failed repeatedly, losing power quickly or degrading faster than traditional lithium-ion batteries. But persistence slowly paid off as researchers refined formulas and improved performance with each attempt. This alternative approach could eventually free India from dependence on minerals controlled by just a few nations. Few people realized how significant this quiet chemistry breakthrough could become for the entire industry. Lab notebooks filled with failed formulas eventually gave way to pages of promising, repeatable results. Researchers who once worked in obscurity suddenly found themselves presenting findings at major conferences. This is where the real breakthrough enters the story, a new generation of fast-charging battery technology. Engineers developed battery designs capable of charging to nearly full capacity in under 20 minutes. This was a dramatic improvement over older batteries that often took several hours to fully charge. Fast charging solved one of the biggest fears preventing ordinary families from switching to electric vehicles. Nobody wants to wait hours at a charging station during a long road trip or daily commute. Test vehicles equipped with this new battery technology completed charging cycles that stunned observing engineers. International battery experts who reviewed early data assumed there must have been some kind of error. But repeated tests confirmed the results, and word slowly began spreading through global battery research circles. When it finally became public, few people realized they were witnessing the birth of something historic. Journalists who covered the announcement described the room as filled with disbelief, turning slowly into applause. Engineers who had worked in quiet obscurity for years suddenly found themselves answering global media questions. What happened next was the shocking speed at which Indian manufacturers began scaling this new technology. Factories that once produced traditional batteries began retooling production lines for this improved design. Vehicle manufacturers who had been hesitant about electric models suddenly expressed serious, renewed interest. This was not a distant laboratory experiment anymore. It was becoming a real manufacturable product. Investors who once ignored Indian battery startups suddenly began pouring significant funding into promising projects. International automotive companies reached out quietly, hoping to secure early access to this emerging technology. This rapid shift from research to real-world production surprised even the engineers who built it. Global battery experts struggled to explain how India moved from imports to innovation so quickly. The truth was simple. Necessity and determination pushed engineers to solve problems others had ignored. While wealthier nations chased perfection in expensive labs, India chased practical solutions people could actually afford. That difference in approach quietly became one of India's greatest competitive advantages in this race. But the real turning point came with a surprising decision, making this technology affordable for everyone. Unlike expensive imported batteries that kept electric vehicles out of reach for most Indian families, this new battery technology was designed specifically to lower costs while maintaining strong, reliable performance. This decision shocked international manufacturers who assumed advanced battery technology always meant premium, expensive pricing. Middle-class families who once dismissed electric vehicles as unaffordable suddenly found realistic options within reach. This affordable approach helped electric vehicles spread beyond wealthy city dwellers into smaller towns and villages. From crowded metropolitan streets to quiet rural roads, ordinary families began considering electric vehicles seriously. Critics abroad questioned how such affordable batteries could maintain safety and long-term reliability standards. But extensive testing under harsh Indian conditions proved these batteries could handle extreme heat and rough roads. Instead of chasing luxury markets alone, value came from serving the massive, practical needs of everyday families. This philosophy stood in sharp contrast to how many global battery companies had always operated. Showrooms in small towns began displaying electric vehicles next to traditional petrol models for the first time. Sales staff who once struggled to explain electric vehicles now found customers asking eager, detailed questions.
Soon, international governments and manufacturers started paying very close attention to India's progress. Officials from other developing nations began visiting Indian battery facilities specifically to study this breakthrough closely. Countries across Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America expressed serious interest in adopting similar affordable technology. India began actively exploring exports, helping other nations access battery technology suited for their own conditions. This transformed India from simply being a technology importer into becoming a genuine technology exporter. Diplomatic meetings that once focused only on trade deals now included detailed discussions about battery partnerships. Global automotive institutions realized India was no longer just a market, it was becoming an innovator. This shift in perception mattered enormously for how the world viewed India's technological capabilities moving forward. And this growing international interest set the stage for an even bigger global moment ahead. Foreign delegations returned home carrying detailed reports, urging their own governments to invest similarly. Some countries quietly began reaching out for licensing agreements before the technology became widely known. Then came the incredible test results that finally forced skeptics around the world to sit up and notice. Reports emerged showing Indian battery technology matching or exceeding performance standards set by established global competitors. Numbers that once seemed exaggerated were confirmed repeatedly by independent international automotive and energy research organizations. Comparisons appeared showing Indian batteries offering similar range and speed at a dramatically lower overall cost. Automotive journalists who once ignored Indian technology news suddenly published detailed comparative analysis articles and reviews. Executives at major global automotive companies reportedly held emergency meetings after reviewing these unexpected results. Social media accounts dedicated to automotive technology buzzed with disbelief at the scale of this achievement. This was no longer a regional success story. It had become an undeniable global talking point. The world was forced to admit that India had quietly built something genuinely extraordinary and unexpected. But why does this achievement matter so deeply, reaching far beyond simple technical specifications and numbers? A cheaper, faster-charging battery could finally make electric vehicles genuinely competitive with traditional petrol cars. Families who once dismissed electric vehicles due to cost could soon find them the more practical choice. Governments could reduce dependence on imported oil, strengthening national economic and energy security significantly. Air pollution in crowded Indian cities could decrease dramatically as more vehicles shift toward electric power. Other nations now see India's approach as a working blueprint for their own energy transition efforts. This is not simply about impressive laboratory numbers or clever chemistry experiments happening behind closed doors. This is about building the foundation for an entirely new chapter in global transportation history. Nations that master this kind of technology gain lasting advantages that compound over many years ahead. Economists began describing battery independence as a hidden multiplier for future national growth and stability. A country that controls its own energy storage tends to control its own economic destiny as well. And this realization leads directly to the deepest reason of all, one that goes far beyond batteries themselves. It is about proving something the world doubted for a very long time indeed. That meaningful, world-class innovation does not require the massive budgets of wealthy Western nations to succeed. For decades, India was seen as a place that assembled technology designed and invented somewhere else, a nation expected to follow global automotive trends rather than create something genuinely original itself. But this battery breakthrough proved that necessity, creativity, and bold decisions could outpace unlimited foreign funding. Engineers who once dreamed of simply catching up now watched global competitors scramble to catch up instead.
This reversal represents something far bigger than impressive charging speeds or lower production costs alone. It represents a fundamental shift in how the world views India's capacity for genuine scientific innovation. Young engineers now grow up believing world-changing technology can be designed and built right at home. That single belief may prove more valuable than any individual breakthrough achieved so far in this journey. So why does all of this truly matter beyond faster charging times and impressive test results alone? Because whoever builds the dominant battery technology of tomorrow shapes how the entire world eventually travels. For far too long, the world underestimated India's ability to lead in advanced energy technology and research. They focused on outdated images of traffic jams and pollution, ignoring quiet innovation happening daily inside labs. They did not see chemists testing countless formulas, searching patiently for the right combination of materials. They did not see engineers pushing through repeated failures, refusing to abandon their ambitious national mission. They did not see factory workers learning entirely new skills to manufacture this unfamiliar advanced technology. Every failed prototype taught valuable lessons that eventually contributed to India's eventual breakthrough moment and success. Every skeptical foreign expert who doubted these efforts only strengthened the resolve of the researchers involved. Every small technical victory built confidence toward the larger, more ambitious goal still waiting further ahead. The shocking headlines about India's battery breakthrough did not appear from nowhere or simple good fortune. They emerged from years of patient, disciplined, often invisible work happening far away from public attention. Behind every headline stood thousands of unnamed engineers, chemists, and factory workers who rarely received credit. Their combined effort, spread across years of quiet struggle, is what truly built this remarkable breakthrough. This is not simply a story about batteries, chemistry, and impressive technical specifications on paper. It is a story written in failed prototypes, sleepless nights, and quiet, stubborn refusal to give up. This is a story about a nation refusing to remain permanently dependent on foreign technology forever. A story of quiet ambition slowly transforming into undeniable, measurable, internationally recognized scientific achievement and respect. The world once assumed India would always import its most advanced technology from wealthier nations abroad. Today, that same nation is quietly positioning itself to potentially export the future of global transportation instead. Imagine a world where the batteries powering vehicles everywhere trace their origin back to Indian innovation. Imagine international engineers studying Indian research papers the way students once studied foreign scientific textbooks and manuals. Imagine future generations growing up believing that world-changing technology can absolutely be built right here at home. This shift in belief may ultimately shape generations of scientists who no longer look elsewhere first for inspiration. A young student in a small Indian town may one day point to this story as genuine proof. Proof that big, ambitious dreams do not require a famous foreign university or unlimited outside funding. That belief alone could quietly fuel the next decade of Indian scientific innovation and national ambition. It could inspire the next great breakthrough to come not from a famous lab abroad, but from home. And if this is where the journey currently stands, imagine where it could realistically go next. Because right now, this may be only the very beginning of an even bigger technological story. A story where petrol engines slowly fade into history, replaced by something built with Indian hands and minds.